Ever feel like you're doing this teaching thing alone? You don't have to be. Shared teaching is all about sharing the workload through the power of collaboration and teamwork. Together, we'll walk through all the difficult parts of teaching and learn how to streamline our processes, fine-tune our time management, and develop a more manageable workload. If that sounds like a dream come true to you, then welcome to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Let's share in the teaching to make those dreams a reality. Now here's today's Shared Teaching. Hello and welcome back to the Shared Teaching Podcast. It's your host, Susan, and you are listening to episode 168, where we are going to talk all about our writing folders, getting planned and figuring things out for the year coming. So I love a good writing folder. I don't know if you know this about me. I love actually using multiple folders for my students and of course color coded, because what else is going to help them out besides labels and color coding, right? So for me, for some reason, I've always done blue for my writing folders. Red is usually like phonics, green for math, but you do you. I don't really care. The important thing is what goes in the folders. Now, I love the 3-prong plastic poly folders, and I get them usually from Walmart. I have tried, Office Depot, I think it's called, in the past, and for some reason they didn't hold up as well. I can usually get a good 2, sometimes 3 years out of my writing folders if the kids don't go crazy with them. Some years the kids are rougher than others, so I just like to do the Walmart ones. They're usually on a good sale. I get a whole class set, and then I wipe them down really good at the end of the year. And then anyone that's broken or torn, I throw those out. And then I always put new page protectors and stuff in for the fresh start, so it looks new to the students. Plus, I redo the labels. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with why we want to have writing folders. And I think that writing folders are such an important part of building that routine that you need, especially in first and second grade, for students to have the expectations for what your writing block is going to be. So having a designated folder for that just kind of helps put that mindset for the kids that this is important. It has its own folder. When we get out our writing folders, we're in that writing mindset. And so it's just a nice part of the routine. Now, another tip to keep your folders lasting longer is actually to not have them keep them in their desks, but maybe have like a tub where they turn them in. And I used to have a shelf with little dividers, so each group would turn in their group of folders, and then there'd be a divider, and then the next group would turn theirs in. So it was really easy for the table captains to find their group's folders at the beginning of writing time and pass them out. So that is a good option too. Having those folders is going to build their independence because they're going to have what they need inside, and it's also going to bring out that strong writing habit. Like I said, you're keeping that routine ready to go. So let's go ahead and talk about what should go in our folders. So the first thing is you want to make sure you have that 2-prong or that 3-prong 2-pocket folder. And I like the front pocket to be things that I'm working on. So the kids are putting like things that aren't finished in the front pocket, so it's really easy to find. The back pocket is going to be for finished writing. So very similar to the take-home folders that you see, where one side is for like the parent stuff and then returning stuff. So I set it up similar, and I like to put labels on it as well so students keep it organized. And then, of course, you probably have to remind them a million times because that's just how teaching is, right? So I do not give them extra paper that stays in their folder. So it's literally just 3 prongs. And then depending on how many things that I want to keep in the folder depends on how many page protectors I'm going to put. And usually it's only about 2. sometimes 3, depending on the level of the students in the classroom. So I like to do like an alphabet chart, and then I like to do some phonics charts so that they have like almost like the sound wall duplicated in their writing folders. And then if there's any kind of special anchor charts, I do have writing goals, so they have a special page protector just for their writing goals, and that is what goes in the very front. And then that's it. We're not going to open those prongs the rest of the year. We're just literally sliding things in and out of those page protectors, and we're putting things in the pockets of the folders. So we're not opening the prongs and putting our writing in there and closing it back up, because that's a lot for little kids to manage. We are literally just having it pre-set up for them with the page protectors. We're going to have lessons that explains what they are and how to use them, and that's how that goes. So very, very simple, very minimal folders, because that's kind of how I roll. Any kind of helpers and things that they need for the lessons is usually going to be a chart that I've printed out and projected on a slide, or it's hanging on the wall. I don't really find the necessity for them to have a ton of papers in their folders besides their writing papers, because that can get to be a lot, and it'll get to be messy as you go through the units. So that's it. So just to recap, it's a 3-prong folder, and it has at least 3 page protectors in the prongs, and you're going to have whatever you feel your students need. So some kind of alphabet chart and a phonics chart, and then if you want to do a writing goal, then that's going to be in there as well. And then you're going to reference those things as you're doing your independent conferences or small group conferences with them. Okay. Next up, we are going to label the folder. Now I've already kind of went over this, so this will be a fairly short episode. But the very front of the folder, I just like to say writing folder, and then I assign my students numbers. So it's going to be like 1 writing folder, 2 writing folder. So the student knows that they're number 1, they get that folder. Now, as I've assigned them the numbers, they can write their name on that label. That's perfectly fine with me, but I just like to have them numbered. Sometimes we turn things in our number orders. Sometimes it's easier for me to find out which things are missing. So that's why I do numbers, especially at the beginning of the school year and the class list is constantly fluctuating. I might wait like a week before I actually dive into using the writing folders, and I'm using that first week to pre-write and do an assessment and kind of build that writing stamina before I dive into actual units. So again, you're going to open the folder. The first pocket as you open it is going to be like a work in progress, or you could just say like my writing, and then the end is going to be like finished writing. So the end pocket. So you're going to label both pockets, you're going to label the front, and that's all you need to do. So another thing I want to talk about is we are creating independence with our folders. We want to set up that routine that teaches the students how to use them without asking and getting constant help from you, because you're busy and they need to be busy and they need to be independent, right? So make sure you are modeling everything. You're going to be very, very explicit, teaching how to use the folder, how to take care of the folder, how not to put the folder upside down because then all the papers fall out, how to put things in the folders properly, because I don't know how many students over how many years, they always get that edge of the paper, so it's like half folded over, like on the one side, and then it's like sticking out. Like, it's a skill, right? Like, these kids have some kind of special skill for folding the papers as they're putting them in their folders, and then they're all wonky. So make sure you're very explicit. You teach how to use the folder properly, how to care for it, how it's an important writing tool that we're going to use all year long. Really emphasize how much care they should be taking of the products that you give them and the consequences of what happens if they do not, which in this case is losing the privilege of a writing folder, right? Maybe they're just going to get a stapled packet of things, or maybe they just have to come up and turn it into you individually, and they don't have a nice folder, and they have to wait till the whole class gets their folders, and then you give them their packet of work for the day. Whatever it is, some kind of natural consequence, right? They don't get the nice folder. Maybe they get one of those cheap I don't want to say cardboard, paper folders, right? So think through your expectations and also what are the consequences if they don't follow through, right? Again, you're going to give a very visual folder tour. Here's where I put my writing samples. Here's where I put my finished work. Here's the difference between something I'm working on and something that's finished. And then I don't take the things out of the page protector unless I'm with the teacher and we're working together. All those kind of rules, right? You might want to have some kind of folder check-in as part of your writing block. So when you're meeting with students, you're like, hey, bring me your folder. And you're just kind of checking, is everything in there properly? Are the papers unfolded? They're nice and neat when they stick them in the pockets. You're just looking for those kind of things really quickly as you sit down with the student. And you're going to want to make sure you have some kind of lessons about how to use the tools inside the folder, how to use those spelling charts and stuff. Those are built into my writing units. If you purchase my second grade writing units, I do have teaching slides that talk about using those tools. And then, last but not least, we want to make sure that students know where to store the folders. So having a designated location for how they're returning the folders, where they're keeping the folders is really important. So you want to think through that. Like I said, are you going to keep them in their desk? There's always dangers of that. They don't hold up as long. And if you don't keep them in the desk, then what's the alternative? Are you having like a big bin that's big enough for the whole class set to fit all of them in? Are you going to separate them out by groups? Are they going to be on shelves? Do they have some kind of mailbox that they can put that in their mailbox? Just thinking through storage so that you're ready and prepared when back to school season starts and you have all this thought out. Because that's really going to be like your first week of lessons, is just showing them this is the routine of writing. These are the tools that we use. This is how we care for them, right? So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure that you stay tuned for an all-new episode next week. And if you haven't done it yet, grab your $5 ticket, just $5 for the Educate and Rejuvenate Conference. It's coming up, I believe it's already next week, the 15th and 16th. So I'm going live in one of my sessions answering any questions through a roundtable discussion. So it should be a lot of fun. And I really hope to see you there. And grab your ticket. It's in my show notes. And I will see you later. Bye for now. If you've loved this show, then join me in sharing the teaching,
hitting that subscribe button,
and leaving us a review on
iTunes,
so we can be found by more teachers like you who are ready to start sharing the workload. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Find new episodes each week on shareteaching.com. Thanks for listening to the Share Teaching Podcast.
Mm-hmm.